Hey guys, got another review for you here in the Dash of Elan. This time we're looking at Et Sans Resultat, Tabletop Rules for Recreating the Napoleonic Wars by David Estenis here in the States. Now, you can get this set of rules in several different formats, actually, and this one is the Complete Player's Guide, as you can see there on the bottom. This basically is not only the full rules, but you also get several of the little supplement booklets that come with it, and I'll get into that as we go along. You can buy this, just the rules, and I believe it's called just the Player's Guide. The Player's Guide, basically. And that's just the rules. This is the Complete Player's Guide, and this gives you everything you need to get right into the nitty-gritty of not only playing the battles out with these rules, but also how to set them up, how to organize your forces, make some scenarios, all in one big tome. Now, this is a pretty big book, actually. I think we're looking at about almost 200 pages. I think it tops out at 169 pages, as you can see right there. So it's pretty big. But again, remember, it's actually not only the rules, it's several different booklets as well. Got a nice cover here. Nice glossy pages as well. Very sturdy pages. You can see right there. The actual rules themselves take you up about 73 pages. That takes you to about this part of the book right here. And it includes a glossary, as you can see, common used terms, which is an index as well. It gives you a reference to a page number or section number, like fire missions, force. What is a formation? Formation reserve, what is that? So it's nice to have that little glossary. So it's got that as well, and that's almost 80 pages of stuff. Now, it seems like a lot of rules when you say 80 pages, but, and this is one of the strong points of these rules, each chapter also includes an extensive section of examples, as you can see here. Everything about the command phase, for example, all the rules, and then that is immediately followed by several pages of examples of everything you may encounter during, in this case, the command phase. And each separate chapter is organized the same way. We jump ahead to the movement chapter. Again, it's color-coded, actually. You got this color here, which is kind of a lighter blue, which is for the command phase. You got the movement phase in green. Kind of a purplish color for the artillery and skirmish phase, and so on. So not only is it color-coded, but following each chapter of rules are an extensive section of examples. And this is really well done, the examples. So if you have any questions reading the rules, there's some pretty extensive examples to kind of help you if you get stuck on something, which I found when I played this and read through it came in really handy. I mean, if you can't find it in the actual rules section, just look into the examples and follow along these examples and see if it's in there. And that popped up a couple times for me during my reading, and the examples did come in handy. So the author really went out of his way to make this set of rules as clear as possible and very well explained. So kudos for that. That's a strong point. This is not hardcover, it's a soft cover, and it has this unique binding here, spiral binding. And I believe this is unique to the 5th printing, I believe, which is the current printing of the rules. You get this spiral binding with this cover, which flips open like this. So your book is going to lay flat on the table, very useful, and it's also well protected. And the back of this is actually a play sheet for the game. So there you go, folks. That's a look at the book itself. Now, after the actual rules, like I said, there are a couple other supplemental books in this Complete Player's Guide. We'll take a look at them, I believe, when I get there. There's an example right there, Raising an Army. That's the second booklet. We'll get to that in a minute. For the time being, let's take a look at these rules. First of all, we got your basic introductions. You got a nice, here's what you get in there. All kinds of interesting topics. Then you got an introduction to the actual game rules, where the author goes into basic concepts, scale, what it is you're doing and what you represent as a player. In this case, you are a corps commander, or possibly an army commander, and so on and so forth. And also changes from previous printings and the previous first edition are listed here. So if you're experienced with this game and have the first edition, all the changes made and updated are listed here for you. So you don't have to go through the entire rule book to know what's going on. It's all laid out for you, nice and plain and simple. At that point, we get to the actual player's guide. This is actually the rules section of the book. So let's take a look at that and see what's in here. Before we get into look at the actual rules, some basic concepts that I think everybody should know about when they're getting into ESR, as it's called. The first thing to take into account is that it is a grand tactical game. This is not a tactical level game. Players command corps, or entire armies, in the case of an army general, which is one of the players. It's highly suitable for multiplayer games if you want big battles, multi-corps actions. Commanders as low down as division are represented on the table as a model, but for the most part you're focused on the corps level of command, and it's through that level of command that the players interact with their forces, or their formations, I should say. Basing. If we take a look here, there's a chart here which is a recommended basing if you don't already have based figures. And it's based on scale that you want to use in your game. 1 inch equals, well, what? You want it to represent 50 yards, or 75 yards per inch, 100 yards per inch, 150, or 200 yards per inch. So there is options for scaling. What I did when I played is I looked at the base sizes I currently have, and I compared it to these various scales. And the closest one I found that matches the frontage of my bases is the 100-yard scale, which is just about right for me. So that's the scale I have play tested the rules with. Works great, even on a 6x4 table, folks. Another thing to look at is that the basic unit of maneuver in this game is the battalion for infantry, the squadron group for cavalry, which is like 100 to 200 cavalrymen, a few squadrons, and the artillery battery. And each base represents just that. Now, infantry can be various sized bases depending on the number of troops that are in that battalion, anywhere from 300 up to 800 or more. Fewer the men, the smaller the base. So here's a small base right there for you. That could represent 300 men. On the other hand, this big base could represent as many as 800 or more, depending on how I want to scale them. But any base sizes will work with this game, really. It's just a matter of finding what ground scale would seem most appropriate for your miniatures. So that's how it works, folks. It's one base per unit. Again, cavalry squadrons, battalions for infantry, and batteries for artillery. So there you go, folks. Now we can kind of get into the actual rules. Now, one thing that's nice about this game and the way the rules are set up is everything is color-coded. If we look at the turn sequence, there are basically 4 phases in each turn. You got the command phase, which is blue. Everything on your play sheet and in the rules that's colored blue will refer to the command phase. Very convenient. Next one is the movement phase, and that's green. So everything on the play chart, as well as the rules, that's green, it pertains to movement. And then we got this lightish purple color, which is artillery and skirmish phase. Again, the color-coded. And again, it's in the rules as well. The pages are colored. And finally, the combat phase, where your melees occur and your close-range volley firing. All that is in there. That's kind of a reddish-brown color. So you can see how that works. And if we look at our rule book, we'll see right away, get past these initial pages, here is the command phase. And you see it's all in blue. Take a look at that. The rules are actually organized according to the turn sequence. Basically, each phase in the sequence follows the next. So you start off with the command phase in blue, goes to the movement phase, which is in a green, followed by the artillery and skirmish phase, which is in this purple. And finally, the reddish-brown color, which is the combat phase. And that's your rules, folks. And it goes into the actual glossary and index, and that's it. That is the rules. They're very well organized. Basically, there's 4 phases in a turn. There are 4 main chapters in the rules. So it's easy to follow along. Another thing I really like about how this game is organized is that in each section, phase, or chapter, however you want to call them, first of all, it describes the rules. We've got a few pages describing the rules. And that is followed by an extensive section of example pages for each phase of the turn. In this case, we're in the command phase, the blue. The last few pages are all examples of various things that can occur during the command phase. Extremely useful, and kudos again to the author for going to this extent to help explain the rules to new players. I found this very useful during my playtests. We follow along here and get to the movement phase. You got the rules themselves for movement. And once that is complete, it goes right into a section on examples for the movement phase. All kinds of good things in there. You can see there's quite a few pages of examples. So it really helps out. Artillery and skirmish, that's basically your longer ranged combat and skirmish stuff. This is where formations or divisions really get worn down. You got to be careful in this phase. Of course, I'm not going to get into detail with the rules. And that's how the rules are organized, my friends. I think one thing I'd like to point out about this game right off the bat, before I get into detail about the rules, is the command phase. This is where the meat of the game lies. This is where a lot of players will get a lot of enjoyment during the command phase. There's basically 3 parts of the command phase. There's the activate orders, there is the issue orders, and that is followed by leader actions. I absolutely love leader actions. It almost feels a little bit like a role-playing game with all the different actions your corps commanders can do. And here's a small list of those actions right there. Some of these actions you can take without a test. Basically, you roll some dice and see if you can do that action. Or no test being required. It depends on the actions. There's quite a few there. Rally, unit, inspire formation. That's where you basically try and inspire the division. If it's taken a lot of fatigue during the game. Very interesting. I love that aspect of the game. And again, here's the play sheet. You can download these for various scales, ground scales. I downloaded the one for 100-yard scale, which is 1 inch is 100 yards. So all the distances and ranges on here are given in that scale, which I was playtesting with. You can download these for free. They are 2-sided, as you can see. Assessments. Again, I don't want to go into detail about the rules. I'm going to save that for another video to follow soon, as well as a full battle report. But this gives you an idea what's going on. Some other concepts of the game which I feel are important to know is that this is an orders-based system. In other words, you issue orders to your divisions, and there might be a delay when those orders kick into gear. In other words, the divisional commanders interpret them, and start following that order. Until you change those orders further on during the battle, they're going to remain on those orders. Some orders default to defend, like, for instance, if the orders have been achieved, they'll default to a defend order in that case. I believe there's 5 different orders, what you'd expect. If you play General de Brigade, you kind of got an idea of how the orders system would work and the types of orders these guys would have during the game. Orders are cool, especially if you play solo, because it kind of forces your formations to do things or require you to do things. Let me see if I can find some here. It's in the command phase. Issue orders. You've got the attack orders, defend orders, move orders, reserve orders. And there's also statuses which can override orders, and that's like if the formation gets broken or if it goes into a retreat or decides that it needs to fall back and do some rallying and reforming. Those are 3 statuses that can replace an order that the formation might be under. I like this part of the game. It's very fun and enjoyable, and a lot of thought goes into what orders you choose for your formations. I like that a lot. Actual mechanics of the game for shooting and close combat, pretty straightforward. It's basically a D6 system. You typically roll 2d6, needing a target number, depending on what you're trying to achieve. It's either a 7 or a 10. And you apply modifiers. And if you get your target number, you get success. That usually results in some type of assessment, if there's some kind of success involved with the check. That's how it works. And assessments can result in various effects, such as fatigue being incurred upon the division. Fatigue is a very dreadful thing in this game. It happens quite a bit. It's realistic, and it really puts a lot of stress on your formations, and that's the way the game represents everything from casualties to lack of cohesion in the formation, etc. It's a key part of the game, actually, fatigue. One other thing I'll mention is that there is an extensive rating system for both units and, in particular, officers. They're rated for leadership, tactical abilities, unique things, like if they're good at certain things like massed cavalry and commanding them, or if they are fated to die in a battle. Basically, if that character did actually die in a battle, he's possibly going to have that rating in there, so there's a better chance of him getting killed in a battle, which is pretty cool. All kinds of good stuff. But again, I'm not going to get into detail with the rules. I'm showing you guys what you get for your money. I'm going to kick ahead here to the next section of the rule book. If you have the complete player's guide, you will get the additional books. This one here is called Raising an Army. And this is a pretty big section. I think it's like almost 80 pages. And it basically covers all the major nations that were involved in the Napoleonic Wars. We got the Austrians. Gives you some example organizations from various time periods and battles. Basically what their division structure was like, their corps commands or wings or however they were organized, as well as the ratings for their units. As you can see here, each unit, by the way, whether it's battalions, batteries, or squadron groups, has a combat rating. As you can see here, it's CR4 for these Austrian infantry. Everything has a simple factor for its combat rating. It's just a single number, and it might be followed in brackets by special abilities, like traits, like Shock 1 in this case, for this unit of cuirassier, and so on. So this section goes into detail about the ratings of your units, how they were organized, and also an extensive section on historical leaders divided up into periods of time. Early war is up to 1807, mid-war goes up to 1812, late war up to 1850. And all the armies are divided up into these 3 time periods. So yeah, it gives you an idea of the kind of stats we're looking at here. But again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Enough to know that this is what you get. You also get many of the minor countries as well. In the back here, following the Russians, I believe. Yeah, there they are. So there you go. And this section is followed by the next little booklet, which is called Designing for War. And this is basically how to set up your scenarios, how to make scenarios. And it covers all kinds of ideas for scenarios. You got introductory scenarios, historical scenarios, what-ifs, large group scenarios for a lot of people, convention games, and pickup games. What kind of things should you keep in mind when creating scenarios? And again, this is a scenario-based system. It's not a point-based. You got to keep that in mind. It's great if you want to create your own scenarios and have that idea for your games. So this is a useful little section, not many pages. I think it's like 6 pages, designing a scenario. Introducing players to ESR is the final section, and this is a sample scenario which can get you started. It's got separate maps for both sides, as well as the game host. It's got the order of battle, the terrain, recommended tactics for both sides, the orders of battle, victory conditions, and how to win the scenario, and so on and so forth. A nice little sample scenario for you to get you started. And again, the play sheet on the back. Now, again, this is the complete player's guide. It's all those books in one. I believe that's about, you can get this anywhere from $50 to $60, I believe, in the U.S., somewhere around there. It's kind of pricey, but you are getting a lot of stuff here, almost 200 pages. You can buy just the rules. It's called the Player's Guide, and it's just the rules section. That's basically all you need to play. And again, that's about 70 plus pages, and it's very well organized. An easy read. So there you go, folks. There's a quick look at the rule book. It Sans Resultat, ESR, detailed, highly playable, perspective-based wargame. So there you go once again, folks. It Sans Resultat, tabletop rules for recreating the Napoleonic Wars. I think if you really enjoy the rich history that is Napoleonic warfare, this is a set of rules you should look at, particularly if you're interested in big battles, major battles, from the perspective of the core level of command. That's where these rules really shine, at that level. I mean, this term here, once again, perspective-based war game, I've never seen that mentioned before with other games, and I haven't seen any other rules that actually come close to duplicating what these rules are attempting to do. And that is put you in the saddle of a core level commander, a core commander. It's not that the lesser details, the tactical details, the divisional commands and such aren't represented in the game or glossed over. They're there, and they're elegantly built into the system, so that what you're faced with as a player is the decisions that a core commander would be making, the challenges he would be facing, the type of tasks he would be undertaking during a battle. I think this set of rules really does that. It really telescopes in on his command. I don't want to call it a role-playing game, but the fact that there are actions, leader actions that a core commander can do just really is an enjoyable aspect of the game, and it really pulls you in. And that, again, is one of the high points of this set of rules. I do recommend it if you are interested in this level of play, the core command level. If you're a fan of the old Empire rules and felt that they were a little too much in terms of detail and what they're trying to represent, I highly recommend this set of rules. Unlike Empire, Empire tries to do everything. It represents all the tactics all the way up to the army level, and it's a bit much for a lot of people. There is no focus in those rules. Some people like that, some people don't. This set of rules, although the detail is there, streamlined and built in, it is specifically focused on the grand tactical level at the core level of decision making, and army level as well, because in big battles you're going to have one player be an army commander. So with that said, my friends, grand tactical gaming, this set of rules stands out for me. It will find a place on my tabletop, on my bookshelf, alongside some other rules that I have. This is something I intend to play quite a bit more of. And right now, it's my #1 choice for a grand tactical game because of that depth and that perspective focus in terms of what the player is representing on the tabletop. So stay tuned, folks. I'm going to have more on this and give you more thoughts on it and point out some of the details of the rules, because I know a lot of you guys out there would love to know more about the details of how this game plays and how it works and what a battle looks like, which I think are all strong points. Battles really look like Napoleonic battles like you see on the cover here. That's another thing that stands out for these rules. But we're going to save that for later videos coming up, my friends. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions about this set of rules, let me know. Ask, leave comments. If you're interested in these rules, check it out. It's thewargamingcompany.com. I hope you enjoyed, my friends, and we will see you again shortly. Stay tuned. I got lots more coming. Take care.